talk about God's plan. God's plan. God's plan. And tonight the focus is walking in the image of God, right? Amen. But I want to look at more intently verse 29, whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed, because there's a lot of words in there that we just can't skip over like a hopscotch. We just can't jump over foreknew and predestined, because it's all throughout Romans 8, right? But my baseline tonight is I want you to know that God has a plan that's greater than your problems and greater than your own plans. And if we talk about nothing else tonight, I said he's perfect in all his ways to us. And he's a good father, right? Simply because I want us to see tonight how God can turn messes into miracles. Messes into ministries. And young people, at this junction in your life, you may not understand what life is about now. It doesn't make any sense now. But when God is finished working, it will make sense after a while. Amen? So tonight we talk about the foreknowledge of God. God, whom he foreknew. Whom he foreknew. It suggests, and even says to us, that God foreknew the day that you would accept him as Lord. And because of what he knew what to do. Because of what God knew about you, he knew what to do to get you. There was a story a man told. He talked about the goodness of God. He talked about how God blessed him, how God raised him. He got up in his church and he told his story about how God had brought him up, and God had taught him, and God had cleansed him, and God had made him into who he was today, and God had taught him how to preach, and God had cleaned him up. And when he got finished with the story, he sat down, and after church, a legalistic man came up to him and he said, I enjoyed your story. I did. I really did. It really blessed me. He said, but wait a minute. I heard you say all that God did for you. He said, but I didn't hear you say anything about what you did or what you do for God. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I left that part out. He said, you know what? You're right. I forgot to tell you. I did my part. And my part was running from him. And his part was chasing me until he caught me. And I think I want to get right there to that point about God and his foreknowledge and his plan the whole time. And if we really unpack this, I want you to see this. If we really unpack this for what it is, young people, we have to understand something. That God is in pursuit of me. That God is always running after me. Even when I don't even know I'm running from him, he's running after me. Right? And I couldn't understand for the life of me why the Holy Spirit bridges together the story of the prodigal son and this. And I want to do a quick synopsis, real quick blend here. So we all know the story of the prodigal son, correct? Prodigal son, Luke 15 for your homework. Young folks, if you want to read for your homework, go read the story of the prodigal son. I'm going to fast forward through it to show you what God's hand is like in terms of how the father and the son correlate, how they respond. Watch this. In Luke 15, the baseline of the story is that the young man had an inheritance from his father, right? He had a ring, he had shoes, he had a robe, he had, watch this, he had an image of a king. And what he did is that he said, you know what, Daddy? I'm tired of living here under your rules. I'm tired. I want to be on my own. I'm ready to run away. You know how you get at 13. I want to run away, do my own thing. I am so tired of these rules. I'm so tired of living in this house. I'm so tired of eating this food. And so the kid, the son, before time asked his daddy, give me what you saved up for me. Give me my inheritance now. Watch this, because what you're going to see is that the son has the image, but he ain't got the likeness yet. Watch this. So the son has the image. He takes off from his daddy's house. Now watch this. Sometimes the greatest love you can ever do or give away is to let somebody learn on their own. Young people, you might not understand that, but sometimes the greatest love your parents will ever, folks in here, sometimes the greatest love God ever shows us is to let us figure it out on our own. So the prodigal son's daddy gave him his money long before he was able to manage it. Let me just park there for a minute and say this. God will not always give you what you ask for, but he will give you what you can manage. He might not give you what you can ask for, but he'll give you what you can manage, okay? So, here it is. He gives the prodigal son, he gives him all of this inheritance, and the prodigal son goes out to a foreign country, and because he has all of the benefits without the knowledge, he blows it. Right? He wasted on wild living. I mean, wasted on, if we would put it in your terms, he wasted on games. He wasted on Madden. He wasted on friends. He wasted doing whatever he wants to do. Amazon, okay? He wasted on Amazon. But the bottom line is that he has the image, but he doesn't have the likeness. Watch. So while he's out there, he loses the image and gains the likeness. Because while he's in the pit, he starts to take on the heart of the Father because he now realizes how important the Father is. And so here it is. He now in the pit loses the image, gains the likeness, and says to his father, says to himself, I'm going to go to my daddy and I'm going to ask my father to make me lesser than what he called me. I just want to be a slave. That's a great point. Because when you come into salvation, when you come into Christianity, when you come into Christ, you got to realize you come in like a penniless slave. You are now qualified. You're not qualified for righteousness when you realize you're not right at all. I think our problem is sometimes in church is that we feel like we are right before. We feel like we're right in our attitudes, right in the way we do our thing, and nobody can tell us anything, right? But watch this. In this moment, he goes from the image, losing the image, distorting the image, if you will. Let me get my language together. Distorting the image. Distorting the image like Adam distorted the image in the garden. And the whole point of the Bible is to restore us back to the image of God. No, wait. How I was created in the garden. When God first formed me, he formed me in his what? Image after his likeness. Which means the image comes first, the likeness comes after, because God wants us to see that working in the confirmation of God is a process of life. Young people, I don't want you to ever get it twisted. I don't care how much they shout in church. I don't care how wonderful the testimonies are. Every one of us are in the process of sanctification. Every one of us are in the process of being conformed to the image. Okay, watch this. So, the prodigal son distorts the image, and so he now is in position to receive or understand the likeness. And when he gets up from the pit, he heads to his father's house to, watch this, so that he can be made lower than what God created him. And God denies the request from the father. Watch this. The father sees the son, and he sees the son has lost everything that he has given him. He sees the son is not dressed as he should. He sees the son is dirty and has distorted the very image of which he left the house with. And so the son says, I'm okay with being in this place. So I'm going to ask God or my father to just let me be how I am. Watch it make sense. And so the father looks at the son, and the father is waiting. Watch this. He's leaning and looking, waiting, anticipating for the son to come home. I'm going to make all this make sense in a minute. What is going on, Pastor Pope, in the father's spirit that lets him know that today might be the day, so let me go get in position to receive him? If I push pause on that story and bring Paul into the picture, then you'll understand how intentional God is in his waiting. Because Paul's headed to Damascus, but God decides today will be the day that I meet him on the road. Do you see this? God is pursuing him. The father is pursuing the son. And watch this, he's pursuing the son from the gates of the kingdom. Help me, Holy Ghost. So what happens is this. The father looks out, sees the son, and the son is content to be where he is. Let me help you understand this, that God is never content with the Christian living less than the Christian. He's never content with us not having joy. He's never content with us not being at peace. He's never content with us not having victory in our natural and in our spiritual life. This is why he says, I conformed you for a reason. I'm conforming you into the image of the Son, so that when people see you, they ought to see Jesus. Have you ever seen Jesus stressed out? Have you ever seen Jesus fighting with people? Have you ever seen Jesus argued with people, the only people Jesus had problems with were people who thought they knew it all. And the only people that Jesus had problems with were those who were too religious, too churchy, who didn't understand how to connect with people. Jesus was a people person, folks. And so as I go back to the prodigal son story, watch the transition. Watch this. The father foreknows when he sends the son out the house, he knows that when he gives the son this portion, he knows he's going to blow it. God knew that the prodigal son would blow it. So the father knows the son's going to blow it. And he knows the son's going to come to a point where he'll lose it all, but he'll return. So the father in his love only gives him a portion. See, I gotta kill the notion that some of you might believe that all that God ever had for you is what you had and lost. But God said, I only gave you a portion because I knew you wouldn't go hang on to what I gave you. That's why some of you think you lost it all. No, you didn't. You lost a little bit. But God said, I got leftovers that you didn't even know because I knew you wasn't smart enough to handle no $60,000 a year job. That's why I let you lose it so you can get the likeness and go back and get the rest of it. You thought your best years were over. God said, no, not really. I only gave you what I knew you was going to lose. But good God Almighty. God said, I am the God that knows how to give you more than what you lost. I didn't pull on you. I didn't save you for you to come on this side of Calvary and live like a slave. So the prodigal son is content with living in that life. But God says you cannot live in my house the way you lived in that pit. And as a child of God, you can't live on this side the way you lived before you came in. In the country where I'm from, they tell you, take your shoes off before you come in the house. Because I don't want you tracking outdoors in my house. Do you hear me? And I believe sometimes what the issue is that we've carried what's outdoors indoors. It's caused a stench in the church. Anyway, the prodigal son is content to be what he created himself. And the father says, I'm not going to let you stay that way. I foreknew, I'm in the text if you look at Romans 8, whom he foreknew, he predestined. Foreknowledge, foreknew means I've seen you in this moment before you got to it. Which is why you can't skip over Romans 8:28. Because Romans 8:28 speaks about your knowledge. It says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and are the called according to his purpose. Are we clear? So here it is, young folks. What it means in surmise is that God, we know that God makes all things work together. God makes all things work together for the end result, which is good, right? So your all things is you're 13 years old, you're 15 years old, you're 7 years old, which you don't even know how to put that in a pot. God says, I'm going to use what happened at 7 to show you something that happens at 27, because the situation sometimes comes before the revelation, but when the revelation comes, the situation makes sense. So you can be mad if you want to now, but when you get older, you're going to understand that if God didn't let me go through that, then I wouldn't have understood who I am today. If it had not been for mama, so goodness, if mama never moved me to that school, I would have never got that teacher, and that teacher would have never taught me that lesson that gave me this revelation, and here I am in my doctorate degree doing stuff I didn't know was in my elementary, because God knows how to make everything work together, which suggests that you cannot live your life isolating things by themselves. You can't be mad at one thing.
encourage you tonight. If you really want to understand this lesson, go to the store and pick up a box of cake. And then I want you to read the back of it and look at all that goes into the cake. Because I want you to go and then miss this lesson tonight. That God has a plan, and his end result is you to look like Jesus. That's the end result. When you go get the box of cake, you'll see a pretty cake. But what you don't see is the process. And when you see the ingredients on the back, I'm going to tell you something. Go get the cake box and get all the ingredients. And then I want you to go home and I want you to eat them all by themselves. I want you to take the eggs, mix them up, and eat them by themselves. I want you to take the flour. I want you to take the flour and eat it alone by itself. I do. I want you to take the imitation vanilla. I want you to eat them that by itself. I do. Because I want you to taste how bitter it is when it's isolated by itself. But until you begin to put the eggs with the flour and the flour with the water and the water with the imitation vanilla, and as you begin to blend, and it's messy. When you begin to blend that mess together, I want you to think about your life, and I want you to think about how God, when he gets done with me, when he gets done making me, when he gets done conforming me, people don't understand what's going on in the mixing bowl because all they can see is the mixing going up. But God will sometimes mix your fun. He'll mix you up all together. And when you put it all together, then you begin to see that somehow, some way, when I put this with that, when I count it all joy, when I fall in the diverse temptation, seeing that the trying of my faith was always working patient. Hold up, but patience was the reason that Abraham obtained the promise. And so God gave me that trial to give me this faith, to give me that patience, to get this promise. I learned then that he always knew what I needed to go through. I said, God always knew what I needed to go through. So he foreknew it. Now what you have to reconcile as a believer tonight is you got to reconcile. And let me just say this. Get over why. Your why is why you're unhappy. We spend so much time asking God why instead of appreciating why he allowed it to happen for good. My why can't hold up because I know who. Did you hear me? My why doesn't hold any justice to my who. Do you understand? So as I go back to recount these steps, the prodigal son is content because in Luke 15 you will see that he tells his dad, or he's trying to tell his dad, he wants to tell his dad, I would just rather be a slave. Now watch the father in this moment show us what it looks like to be conformed. The father sees that he's not dressed like him. He's not dressed like the son I know. You're not dressed the way I sent you out of here. You left my house with shoes on it, and you ain't got on no shoes. You left my house with a ring, and you ain't got your ring on. You left my house clean, and you ain't looking so clean. You left my house with a robe, and you didn't. Okay, what you saying, Jack? Okay, son, when you left my house looking like me. But because of life and your bad decisions, you picked up some stuff that look like me. So you want me to let you stay in my house, but not look like my son. No, sir. And so the prodigal son is rightly deserving to not receive anything of God. That's why I said he distorted the image and then got the likeness back. Watch this. Because when you come to God, dirty, listen, incomplete. When you come to God, sinful. When you come to God broken. You talk about being bullied. When you run to God beat up. When you run to God penniless. When you run to God after divorce. When you run to God with an addiction. When you run to God not understanding your station in life. You're now ready to receive his likeness. All right. Because salvation is a free gift. Good God. Salvation is not something you earn. It's something you receive by his abundant grace. does the one thing that helps us learn how to conform to his image. He takes a step toward God. In the prodigal son's approach to the Father, he receives from the Father everything he loses. So the Father stops him and says, bring me everything he lost. Shoes, which will establish his firm foundation and commitment of who God created him to be. Give me the ring. The ring will signify that my son still has wisdom. Give me the robe. The robe will signify that that which was dirty is now covered. So that by the time the son gets to the house, those who don't even know his story won't even know his story, because by the time they see him again, he's going to look the way he did when he left. When God gets through with you, you're going to look the way you did when you left. And your enemy won't even recognize that you even been nowhere, because the next time they see the son, he's clothed in righteousness. Now watch the text make sense. Here it is. He goes from image, distorted image, to likeness, and likeness back to image. Romans 8:29 says this. Watch. Those whom he, well, let's go to 8:28. And we know all things work together for good, those who love God, who are the called according to his purpose. What do you mean? So when we bridge together the two, the son didn't understand the fullness of the Father, or his love, or his likeness. Watch. So the Father allows the Son to go through a process, right? And here's what the Father knows: that he has to go to the pit so that he can understand humility. He has to go to the pit so that he'll understand the richness of positioning. The prodigal son does not, he's arrogant, folks. Young folks, he's arrogant. What that means is, arrogant means that you think you know what you don't think you know, but you're confident about what you know, so you make decisions based on what you're guessing. Because see, what happens with us young people is that we think that we know based on our limited experience of what we think. And one of the most dangerous things young people you can ever do is think too much. Drake wrote a song and said, don't think about it too much. Don't think about it too much. So the prodigal son allows his knowledge, watch this, to take him to a place that he has no wisdom on how to get out of. So God, the Father in prodigal son, Luke 15, allows it. He allows it. Now this is what you got to understand. Because God always has a plan. God knows what to allow. To foreknow and then use the word predestined in this particular context means that predestined means that he marks off a boundary line. Do you hear me? It means he marks off a boundary line for as far as you can go. Now, in my line of work, I drive for FedEx. And so there's sometimes when I'm in certain neighborhoods, watch this, folks, I'm in certain neighborhoods, Jacoby, where, I don't do dogs, you see? I don't do dogs like that. Okay? I don't do dogs like that. But there are sometimes I pull into a neighborhood and there are ferocious dogs in the yard. Now, there was one particular day last week, there's this big old dog, and normally we won't have no problems. I think he understands, I understand, we understand. Normally it's not an issue. But watch how predestined works in this context. Normally it's not a problem. I can drop the package off real gingerly and get back in my truck and drive away real fast. But this particular day, the dog wants to pace back and forth. And he's running here, and he's running there, and he's running here, and running there. Now here it is. I perceive a threat. So I'm like, I'm not going to drop this package today. And if I do drop it, I ain't going to drop it at this house. Watch this. Until I pay attention to his limits. Because the dog would only go so far. And then he turned and run back to the other side of the yard and then go so far. And I said, oh, he has on a choke chain that only allows him to go so far. So what I did was just simply found where he couldn't go. Now when you have a choke chain on, it's something you can't see. But the owner has limits set on the dog where the dog can only go so far and bark so many times before the owner will hit a button and cause the dog to back up. That's predestination. See, when you understand that you've been predestined, then you understand why that ain't gonna kill you, because God's only gonna let it go so far. You ain't gotta argue with nobody because God's only gonna let it go so far. You ain't gotta trip when folks leave you because God is only gonna let it go so far. And this dog can only go so far. Can I give you one scripture? For Satan has desired to have you that he might sift you as wheat, but I pray for you that in your moment of temptation that your faith does not fail. And when you are converted, strengthen your brother. God will give Satan access, but he'll only let him go. Satan says to God, I would touch Job, but you got a hedge of protection. And if you move the hedge, I can move. But if you don't move the hedge, I can't touch him. And God wants you to know that in his predestination of your life, he's only going to let you go so far. Yeah. You only going to be able to do so much. So much to where he says, those whom he foreknew, he predestined. Which means he knew I would be in this moment, but he also knew the day that I would turn to him. And then, watch this. Thank you, Holy Ghost. Oh, Superintendent, I believe maybe, well, I gotta wrap up. I believe maybe that the dad in this context of scripture in Luke 15, if I'm going back and forth, I believe in Luke 15, it's just me, it's not written. But maybe the father doesn't leave the house to go get the son. Because he knows that the son can only go so far. If young people, and let me be honest and clear with you, you will have a time in your life where you're going to pray and God is not going to answer. And you're going to wonder, God, where are you? I thought, there you go thinking again. But I thought that when I called you, you would answer me. And sometimes the answer is no answer at all. That's right. That's the truth about it. So you can lay on your face for 10 days straight if you want to. But sometimes God will grow you up by not saying a word. We got to be careful, Pastor. We got to be careful of taking on unnecessary stress of trying to have an answer for everything. Sometimes it just, I don't know. But I can point to you a scripture that said Jesus asked the Father, if it be your will, take this bitter cup from me. And God said nothing. Now, what's the difference between Jesus and Paul? Because Paul prayed 3 times, and 3 times God said no. Young people, sometimes the answer's nothing. The Father sits there and lets the Son go through all of that. Because he understands foreknowledge. I knew he was going to come back. So I'm waiting by this road to give you this stuff before we get back to the house. Because according to culture, I can't let you come back in the house until they see that I've restored you. Watch. In that biblical culture, there was a mob of people who were waiting to make sure that he stayed excommunicated. Because you can't do that and not get penalized, like Kobe said. What I'm trying to tell you, young folks, is that your God's plan is greater than your penalty. Even in the event that you make a mistake, baby, and get pregnant before you should, God's plan is greater than your penalty. You probably should be set down and you probably should be guilty, but God said, my plan is greater than your penalty. And I want you to know know that sometimes we make mistakes in the church house. Sometimes we make mistakes in life, but God's plan is greater than your penalty. Because if you keep reading off in there, he's going to tell you there is now therefore no condemnation to those that are in Christ. If you keep on reading, he's going to say those who before knew he also justified. If you keep on reading, you're going to find some stuff that says God's plan is bigger than my penalty. Yeah. So stop letting people penalize you for something that God has paid for. All right. One more time. Stop letting people or yourself penalize you for something God paid for. Well, how did God pay for it? Well, here's the thing. On the Calvary's cross, Jesus died a horrific death that covered your sins yesterday, today, and forever. Now, here's the ultimate part. Prodigal son, how does it connect to this? Walking and being conformed to the image. Being conformed into the image of the Son literally means that God makes everything work together to make me look like Jesus. Yeah. That's it. Yes. That's the whole text. Yes. Everything in your life happens to your life so that you can ultimately look like Jesus. Period. Yes. When your heart gets broken, it's so that you can look like Jesus. How do you look like Jesus when your heart is broken, young folk? I'm talking about broken hearts because y'all think y'all are in love, and sometimes your feelings hurt and you call it a broken heart, and we laugh, but we ain't gonna tell you that. That ain't love. It's a chemical. You're high right now. But watch this. I'm closing. I'm done. I'm done. Literally done. So, how do we get conformed to the image? Well, this text teaches us that all things are working together for good so that we might, watch this, ultimately become conformed to the image of Jesus. So everything in my life literally is chiseling me to look like Christ. Yeah. The word there, when you look at the word to be conformed, it literally means together with me. He's working with me. He's chiseling me. There was once a story. Somebody had seen this man. He's a famous artist. He'd seen him knocking at this rock. And they couldn't understand what he was doing. But he was just chiseling away, brick by brick, piece by piece, stone by stone. He's tearing away at this rock. And to the people, it looks like he's wasting his time. They don't understand what he's doing. And when they finally asked him, he said, "Sir, what are you doing to this rock? Why do you keep making all this noise? And why are you knocking off all these boulders? And why are you making this mess?" And he said, "I'm liberating an angel from this stone." What I want to tell you is that God, in his conforming you to the image of his Son, when you don't have an answer for what you're going through, you can just say, he's liberating this angel from this stone. When you don't have a reference for what's happening in your world, you can say, he's conforming me to the image of his Son, which means that he's going to keep chipping away at my life until I begin to look like Jesus Christ. And piece by piece, it's going to happen. Life moment by life moment, it's going to happen. That's why you got to, we used to sing this song, call it back in the church. It said, "Please be patient with me because God is not through with me yet." The worst thing you can ever do, young people, is count yourself out when God is not through counting. You cannot determine your life's end by where you are. Big Mama said, you can't count your day bad until all your days come in. God is saying to the text tonight, I knew you, I know you, I want you, I called you and confirmed you. And this is what I'm going to do with you. I'm going to give you the grace to become what it is I called you to be. And when you don't understand it, I'm going to still give you mercy. He told me the other day, he said, grace is favor that I don't deserve, but mercy keeps me from losing the favor that I don't deserve. Because I don't care what you are experiencing now, that God's grace is enough to keep you and conform you and change you and make you. And all you got to do is keep on approaching the Father. All you got to do is keep coming to him. I don't care how you come. I don't care when you come. They that call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. I don't know, they're not going to tell their story, but if I tell the story what happened in Miami, I had a little too much to do, and I had to call him, and he answered me. He answered me. Because one thing about God is that he never ignores the call. Sometimes Sometimes he answers it without talking to you. Young people, being conformed into the image. The word conformed is a construction or process word, which means life is what conforms me. I conform year by year. As we go from faith to faith, glory to glory. And the Bible teaches this, that one day he will quicken my mortal body. Did you hear me? I want you to see this. When you die, your body will look away. Oh, goodness. But when he gives us our resurrected body, when he begins to restore us, we will be what they call glorified. The glorified body will be one of the same, but not the same. It's the same body that Jesus picked up when he got out the tomb. Amen. And it was so powerful that Mary thought it was a gardener. See, when God glorifies you, puts his glory on you, it will become so visible that people who were close to you won't recognize you. When you walk in the conformed image of Jesus, your life will look like this. People will look at you and say, I know who you used to be. And they'll wonder, how did you go from cussing people out to loving people with a big heart? Because you were conformed to the image. Some of you would have never been so loving had you not been broken. Some of you would have never been so joyful had you not lost it all. But it's because you went from top to bottom that you learned something on the bottom that now when you're on the top, you say, listen, I know for sure it's only the glory of God, the blessing of God. He conformed you to the image. Can I prove it and get out your way? The Bible says in Philippians that Jesus humbled himself, took on the form of a servant. Almighty. He's the king in servant form. And he serves in servant form for 33 total years. Now he started off in the kingdom. He started off with God in the counsel of God. But he takes on the form of a servant, which makes him look unrecognizable. So he takes on something ugly, even though deep inside he's something beautiful. Watch. Now, here it is. After he dies, he receives back what he originally had. Here comes the text. When you die to the flesh, then the Spirit of God now lives. And that life that you now live, you live by the faith of, hear me in Galatians, what I'm trying to teach you is this, is that death to self is what brings the image alive. When I die to my opinion and how I feel, it brings Jesus alive. When I stop complaining and start praising, it brings Jesus alive. When I start looking at all God is doing instead of all that is happening, it brings the image alive. I just want to tell you tonight that God has a plan. And he's working it right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Be patient with yourself. Keep approaching the Father.
Yes.
You ought to know this, that you're loved. That God loves your flaws and all. The book teaches us that there is no fear in love. For perfect love casts out all fear. And what that means to us is that we can now run boldly to the throne of grace and get what we need in the time that we need it, dirty and all. And I don't know a parent in here, when they see a dirty child of theirs, an infant baby with food all on their shirt, stuff all over their face, that will refuse to pick up their child. And I want to tell you tonight, God said, I'll pick you up. Dirty and all, I'll pick you up. Because I know what you're going to look like when I get through. Clean. He thought I was worth saving. So you came and changed my life. You thought I was worth it. So you cleaned me up. Come on here. You thought be free.